Okay, you can start, Chair.
Great, thank you very much. Morning, everyone, and welcome to this morning's meeting of the South West Wales Corporate Joint Committee Energy Subcommittee. Just to make everyone aware, this meeting will be recorded. Please ensure your microphones are switched to mute unless speaking, and that all mobile phones are switched off. If you have any questions during the meeting, please raise your electronic hand. We'll go straight into the meeting itself with item 2, declarations of interest. Are there any members who'd like to declare an interest at this stage, please? Liz.
I just wanted to clarify, I declared last time that because my consultancy does a lot of energy efficiency work in the community, I made a declaration last time. Do I need to do that every meeting, or does that stand now going forward?
Hi, Liz. If you could declare... Oh, sorry, Chair.
No, after you, Chloe.
Yeah, if you declare in this meeting like you did last time, and then going forward, we'll speak to our legal officer to get you dispensation to continue then.
Lovely. Just to you, is it to send you the same information again?
Yeah, if you could just state it for the recording, and then after the meeting, I'll send you the form to fill in.
Thank you very much. I don't think I've just done that. Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you, Liz. No other hands raised. Okay, good. So we'll go on to item 3, which is the minutes of the previous meeting. They're on pages 3 to 16. Firstly, any comments on the accuracy of those minutes from anyone? No. Can I seek a mover and seconder for confirming those minutes as a true record then, please? I wasn't there, so I won't move from the chair.
I'm happy to move that they were correct. Councillor Aled Von Owen from Carmarthenshire.
Aled, thank you very much. Andrea, thank you. So it's been duly moved and seconded. Can I just have a show of hands from committee members in favour, please?
I can confirm those minutes have been approved, Chair.
Thank you very much, Chloe. Forward work programme then. So that's pages 17 and 18 on your agenda. Item 4, officers, do we have anything to add to that forward work programme at all? No.
Nothing currently, Chair, no.
I think it's just for noting, so we'll just move straight on unless any committee members have anything to say on that. No hands. Good. Okay. So we're into the real agenda then with item 5, delivery of local area energy planning in South West Wales. That's pages 19 to 32 on your agenda packs. So effectively, this is delivery of local area energy plans across the region. There's a covering report and presentation there for you. And I'll hand over at this juncture to the relevant officer to take us through it, if that's okay.
Yes, okay, thanks, Chair. I'm Kendall Davies from Carmarthenshire County Council. There's, as you said, the report there for information. It was reported to your inaugural meeting as well. This is just an update. So the leaps really are just plans being put forward to decarbonising an area, in this case, each of the counties, for their energy systems by 2050. So it's trying to achieve the Welsh Government's commitment to achieve a net zero Wales by 2050. Part of it, there's other aspects to it because it is just energy related. Welsh Government have funded the development of these in each of the 22 counties. Some, like Pembrokeshire, have already had theirs produced back in 2022 as part of a condition of funding for the Milford Haven Energy Kingdom project. So it's the others now. The other 18 that haven't got them are all currently producing local area energy plans in conjunction with service providers, in our case, that being City Science. And as per your previous committee meeting, Jade from City Science will go through some slides she has prepared just to give more detail than just this quick overview. So yeah, we're working on it. Work in progress, 3 local area energy plans to be produced by the end of this month. Drafts are currently with local authorities for internal comment, also with utilities for the technical modelling comments as well. So the aim is ultimately to have coverage of the South West Wales region by 4 leaps. So there's 3 being produced now and 1 already. City Science are endeavouring to make them more as 4 than just 3 plus 1. So there is a synergy between them, and they do reflect regional emphasis and reflect the regional energy plan that has already been produced. So it's just an opportunity to look at the energy system itself, to try and bring that up to identifying actions. So that's it, working hand. Currently as well, Welsh Government have funded the appointment of 3 support staff to help in this process. We had interviews back in November. Glad to say that we've got 2 of those 3 in post. One is the Energy Project Manager, Dr. Elaine Ford, who, as it happened, started yesterday. And the other one then is the Energy Project Officer, Rob Broom, who started in January. We've got a 3rd post, which is currently vacant. Unfortunately, our preferred candidate was unable to accept the post, so that job is currently out for advert. The closing date is this Thursday. Glad to say we have had some applicants already, so hopefully we will be likely to fill that post in the very near future. So that's really an overview of it. There's more text there, but I won't bother you because I'm sure it overlaps with what Jade is about to say in her presentation. But just a positive update, the funding for the LEAPs is due to end in March. We're on track to develop the LEAPs by then. Well, City Science, in all fairness, they've done all the hard lifting. We've just done the inputting and commentary. So on that note, do you mind, Chair, if I hand over to Jade from City Science?
No, that's great. Thank you very much, Kendall. Jade, we're over to you.
Great, thank you. I'll just share my slides. Thank you. Okay, and yeah, just to say, Kendall, I don't think it's been all of our hard work. I know that a lot of people on this call have spent a lot of time on calls with us. So thanks for everything there with our extensive stakeholder engagement plan to help get the LEAPs over the line. So yeah, I'll probably touch on bits and pieces that Kendall said. So we are producing the 3 LEAPs, the 3 remaining LEAPs of South West Wales, excluding Pembrokeshire, who already has one. So we see local area energy planning as a comprehensive process designed to identify the most effective pathways to net zero for the local area energy system. So as Kendall said, that doesn't include kind of land use emissions as we're looking at the energy system itself. So the LEAP project started in February 23, and as Kendall said, we've got until the end of March to produce the final versions. In terms of how this aligns with regional aspirations, so the Regional Directors Group, which reports to the CJC, is the regional steering group for LEAP sign-off. And whilst these plans are local, we've developed them using regional collaboration and themes aligned with the 4 regional energy strategies. And we've also held an extensive stakeholder engagement programme, which I'll get into in a minute. And we've ensured that they're kind of aligned with those with the different thematic and regional themes to ensure collaboration and a regional approach to development. So yeah, a large number of the whilst a lot of the scenarios and levers are local, a large number are regional. So thinking about skills, transport, housing, infrastructure, and so we've ensured the LEAPs remain connected and transparent with regional government structures. So yeah, it's good for me to be here to provide an update for you because whilst the CJC isn't a governing body for the LEAP process, it's good for us to kind of update you on the progress to date and the key next steps. Following the completion of the LEAPs, the Welsh Government are undertaking an exercise with Energy Systems Catapult to consolidate all of the findings. So that will provide more of a regional view as well. So again, pulling all of the regional aspects together, but then also looking at it at a national level as well. So in terms of what's new from the last time I saw you, I'm pretty sure we'd got to stage 6 at that point. So we'd already held the actions workshops and prioritisation workshops, but we've got into finalising the focus groups and we've developed an action plan for each of the LEAPs. So the aim of the action plan is to really create a robust trajectory for all of the implementation steps that have been identified within the LEAP process to create a net zero energy system in the future. So we kind of started with baseline modelling and to understand the current energy system. We then developed different scenarios to test what things might look like in the future. So how do we get to a net zero energy system in 2050? And then the action plan itself is actions that can support reaching net zero by 2050. So since completing the action plans, we've drafted the LEAP documents, and they're currently being reviewed by the councils, Welsh Government and the Energy Service. And once they provided their feedback to us, we will make the relevant tweaks and amendments and send the final versions. And then we move into stage 8, which is corporate briefings and cabinet sign-off. So I won't go through these couple of slides in loads of detail, but just to kind of show you all of the stakeholder engagement that's happened during the process. So all of the engagements for stages 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 have been completed. Stage 7 is the creation of the plan, and we've still got our presentations of the final report to go. So those will be to wider groups and stakeholders, and also to this group. And showing the engagements just in a more logical way, I suppose, helps us to see kind of how each engagement influenced different elements of the LEAP. So to develop the net zero pathway, which is shown in the LEAPs, we conducted local area interviews. We developed a baseline and presented that back to the councils and key stakeholders. We then held scenarios workshops and modelling approach workshops to kind of go through how we were going to model the different scenarios. We then held a modelling output presentation to show the outcomes of those. And then we refined the net zero pathway and shared that again to finalise it and thinking about non-technical factors. So all of those engagements fed into developing that net zero pathway of what do we need to do, you know, with interim targets to get to a net zero energy system by 2050. And then in terms of developing the action plan to support the implementation, we held an enabling factors workshop. So thinking about, you know, what collaboration is needed, what funding mechanisms are needed, what else do we need to do within the area to help develop the energy system. So we then moved into action development workshops, so where we had developed a long list of different potential actions that could help. We then prioritised those actions with the local authorities and then refined the actions in action focus groups. That's really getting into the detail of it. So, you know, not just the action overview, but who do we think would need to be involved? What would the key steps be? How would we fund them? All of that kind of detail. And then finally, we held refinement and governance workshops to kind of finalise those actions, which then went into the final action plans. So just a little overview of what the LEAP documents actually look like and how they're structured. So each local area energy plan consists of 2 documents. So we've got the main LEAP report. So the purpose of that one, it's more visual and there's no technical jargon and all of that. It's very accessible as it will be released publicly. So we wanted to make that really nice to understand, easy to understand and engaging. And then to accompany that, we have a technical annex. That's where all of the nitty-gritty, interesting technical detail is. So anyone that wants to know anything about, you know, modelling assumptions and how we got to this number and all of those types of things, all of that detail is tucked away in the technical annex to not kind of bamboozle people in the main report. But both the LEAP, so both of those documents follow the same flow. So it's quite easy for the user or the reader to reference different sections in the technical annex as and when they feel they want to get more information. So yeah, and so the documents kind of follow the same kind of flow as the local energy planning process itself. So we go firstly into the local context and energy system. So we show kind of what the energy system looks like right now. We then share the vision and the future energy scenarios that we looked at. We then look at interventions. So within those scenarios, what interventions are needed to get to a net zero energy system. So that might be, you know, number of heat pumps, how many EV chargers do we need, that kind of thing. And then it goes into the action plan. So as I said, to kind of enable those targets to be met yeah, this kind of just goes into the context and the contents in a bit more detail, so I won't go through all that. I think I've kind of covered all of it, but you obviously have access to the slides if you'd like to take a look later. And then we just have our next step. So the councils are currently providing feedback, as I said, and then we're aiming for a final leap delivery of week commencing the 25th of March. And then you can see here on the page, we've got different timelines for the 3 local authorities, corporate briefings, pre-cabinet meetings and cabinet sign-offs as well. They're kind of the next steps as we wrap up the projects. And that's the end of my slideshow. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much, Jade. Can you pull that off the screen for me, because I can't see anyone
yes,
otherwise?
There we go.
Superb, thank you very much. Any other officers want to add anything, or are we going into members' questions now? Looks like into members' questions. Okay, member colleagues, anything that you'd like to follow up on? Any questions? Andrea, you're in first.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to Jade. Yeah, I know that all of us have been working in our own local authorities very hard at our local area plans. I was just wondering, because obviously there's going to be some common themes coming through from the 4 areas of the region, and are there going to be any workshops, or is there going to be something that provides a regional overview of the plans to find those areas of commonality and areas where we can particularly collaborate?
Yes, so some of the next steps in the local area energy plans is to so after they're published and finalised, is to get everyone together and look at everything on a regional basis. So one thing we've done in the action plan is we have identified in many instances where there are some actions that actually sit across all 3. Obviously, we've also got to think about Pembrokeshire, so that's another good reason to have those workshops after publication, to really think about, okay, we've got these actions which have been suggested to be regional. It makes sense for us to work on them, but there might be other ones that actually, you know, one local authority hasn't chosen but another has, but actually it feeds into a certain other workflow that, you know, so yeah, it's a recommendation that after the publication we'll kind of have that wrapping up and consolidation of all of the actions so that you can create a plan to move forward.
Thanks, Jade. Victoria, did you want to come in?
Thank you, Chair. Just to add to what Jade said, that in the Southwest you've been really good, and actually you've approached our leaps on a regional basis anyway, so you've looked at them kind of thematically, which has been really good. Obviously, as Kendall said, we've got some new officers on board as well that's going to help aligning the local area energy plans and your previously approved regional energy strategy to make sure that we've got those themes working the right way. And then the last step of that is then nationally. So as Jade said, there might be some actions that are best taken at a regional level. Likewise, there will be some that are best done at a national level, and that's where the sort of interface with Welsh Government and the Energy Service can support and try and work out what kind of levers we can press, you know, so that we've got the activities happening in the right place, and the sort of limited resources that we have got are doing the best thing that they can at the appropriate level.
Thanks, Victoria. Jeff?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I should have come a bit earlier actually before you went on to members, but just to reinforce the point my cabinet member made, Councillor Lewis, the regional and the national approach is obviously critical to this, because we put a lot of effort into how we think we can make it work on a local basis, but clearly it's much wider than any one local authority. The most important thing for me at the moment is to get that consistent view from Welsh Government, because we need to feed that up, and Welsh Government need to come up with that national plan, not least because we've been asked to inform various documents. I had a recent letter from the Minister for Climate Change to respond to the cooperation agreement applied on the challenge group about what we're doing about 2035, and a lot of that links into what's happening on LEAPS. So it's tricky for us to sort of have to feed back to Welsh Government what Welsh Government are driving, what they're trying to do. So having this as a consistent document, albeit it's a very long, it's a long horizon scan to 2050, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and the documents that City Science have prepared are excellent, because I think a lot of us were quite unsure at the very outset, but they are excellent. But a lot of it is theory and modelling to enable us to understand how we could possibly do this. But the importance of these documents is critical, but more so it's what Welsh Government do to respond to it. Let's not have them on a shelf and just them being another set of documents that everyone's looked at. These need to drive that process going forward. And I think as Victoria said, regionally we've worked very well together. It's been a real testament to how we can work, and the project officers will look at cross-organisation projects, which is critical for us. But it's what Welsh Government do with these documents is really going to be the tester.
Thanks, Jeff. Rhys?
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Yeah, I'm not parochial in any way, shape or form, but clearly where there are opportunities to work across the regional area, those must be taken, and those themes that will be identified through this process must be advanced better on a regional basis. But where there might be slight divergence, these don't constrain us in any way from following our own priorities today.
Thanks, Rhys. Okay. Anything else from anyone else on this? Looks like not. So I think it's just an update report for noting. So I think it's a case of just noting the update and proceeding on to the next item, which is 6, Regional Skills Partnership. That's a verbal update. And I'll hand over to the relevant officer to kick that off, please. Thank you.
Hello, good morning. My name is Jane Lewis and I manage the Regional Skills Partnership for South West Wales. Thank you very much for inviting me this morning. I just wanted to give you a brief overview of what we've been doing in the region to identify skills needs and skills gaps. So under the City Deal Skills and Talent Programme, we've been undertaking a piece of work around a skills barometer to identify where the skills gaps are that we need now and future skills for both our industries and our public sectors across the 5 key areas of digital, energy, construction, manufacturing and health. And we've done this work, the barometer is completed, but as you can imagine, it's a live document. We will continue to update it as new opportunities emerge, and they are emerging very quickly, as you can imagine, with everything that's happening across the region at the moment. So what this actually highlights is what the provision is at the moment, what provision is there, and what that provision, how it needs to be updated. So some of the courses and opportunities that are being delivered through our colleges, through our universities and schools, some of them are outdated and they need to be updated well, as a matter of urgency, actually. But also what it looks at what are the new skills that are going to be coming through as a result of the projects that have been supported through City Deal. What's going to be happening through the Flow project with the offshore wind, and also through the Freeport opportunities. And there are huge opportunities here, and it's not just about educating the young people who are in our primary schools and secondary schools now, and then in our colleges, but actually upskilling the existing workforce to transition into these new jobs as they develop. Now, I fully appreciate that some of these jobs are very long term, but we have to have the workforce ready in order to meet those challenges that are coming around the corner. Energy and construction, as you would imagine, are key areas for these new skills. And we are looking at how we can upskill our workforce within the construction sector so that they can meet the demands for our retrofitting programme across all of our local authorities, but also within the RSLs, housing associations. And we've got to make sure that the colleges are actually also delivering these new skills within the existing courses and apprenticeships on offer. And many of you will probably be aware that there are new opportunities for vocational qualifications now being developed to be introduced in 2027 in our schools, which will hopefully bring through opportunities for young people to look at construction, engineering, manufacturing within the school programme, as well as then following on into college and university. Through our work with the Skills and Talent Programme, we've been able to support some of these these pilot projects with funding from the programme. And this has been pilot projects with schools and colleges. So, for example, we've got a really interesting one in Carmarthenshire with the Pentre Owl programme, where we've got young people in 5 schools in the Llanelli area who are working with the Pentre Owl project to understand, you know, how you build such a facility, what the design, what the additional jobs is, not just the normal trades that you would see in construction, but how the whole thing comes together. And they've been involved in a competition to design an element of that building, so that they're learning and experiencing the work on site, because they've had the opportunity to go on site, meet the contractors and talk to them. And we've done a similar programme with engineering in Pembrokeshire, so linking up with the college, schools and the companies down in Pembrokeshire, so that they can actually bring that learning, that experience, that knowledge, and hopefully those young people will leave school next year and they will continue their education into engineering. We've also done a project in Swansea, and this is with primary schools, again in construction. We've done one with construction and one with health, looking at how they can incorporate that learning, bringing in the digitalization into their learning, so learning through Minecraft, using VR and AR systems, so bringing that intelligence and opportunities, again hoping that they will consider then when they're looking at leaving school that they go into these new and emerging jobs and opportunities. But also it's not just about looking at, well, how can we educate and bring with us the young people, but how can we upskill our existing workforce. So we've been working with opportunities around fabrication and welding, because as you can imagine, there's a lot of demand now for fabricators and welders, and how can we make sure that we've got enough people who are being upskilled to meet these needs as they come through. Looking at the public sector, the Skills Partnership has got 9 specific cluster groups. So we've got 8 private sector cluster groups, and we've got 1 public sector cluster group. And at those cluster groups, we look at specific areas where there's areas of concern, where we don't have enough people. We all understand the recruitment issues that everybody has at the moment, and how can we overlook that? We can't. So how can we look to upskill our existing workforce through apprenticeship opportunities, through development opportunities? And one of the areas that was raised was around peatland apprenticeships. Now, there isn't a peatland apprenticeship, but there are courses that are available, and peatland work is included within the land management apprenticeship. But there are specific short courses, around peatland restoration practitioner, which is a 6-day course through Lantra. So that was one of the areas that you asked us to look into. But also there are other courses that have come up since that first meeting, which may be of interest, and I think would be beneficial to the public sector workforce, because we're all aware now of the sustainability and environmental issues that we've all got to meet the targets for Welsh Government, as has been already mentioned. And Coleg Sagar, within their new Green Academy that they've set up, are looking at well, they are currently delivering environmental sustainability for managers, pathway to net zero, and environmental sustainability for the workforce. Now, these are specific courses that are for different levels of individuals, but they are there for us to increase our knowledge within local authorities about what sustainability means, and especially within your particular job or within the whole authority as a whole. So these are they're available, they're free of charge, and they are available to all public sector bodies. Other key areas that have been identified through the public sector group are around ecology and planning, and I'm sure everybody around the table here today will say the same. Yes, we can't recruit people, and there's a high demand. So again, we're trying to look at how we can increase awareness of these opportunities and encourage people to think about studying in those areas. We have recently completed 4 county reports. So we normally produce a report for Welsh Government looking at employment and skills requirements within our region for Welsh Government. But we went one step further this time, and we've looked at 4 specific county reports. So they're going to be launched by the end of March, and they've got much more detail within those about specific skills requirements for each county. Now, there are many that will obviously go across, and they're the same, but there are some specific ones in each of the counties. Now, obviously, there's a lot of other things happening in the region, and I couldn't not mention Tata and obviously the issues that could be occurring there around staff potentially losing their jobs, both within Tata and the supply chain. And how do we ensure that we don't lose any of those staff from our region, because the skills that are there are going to be needed in the region, but we have to make sure that we don't lose that excellent opportunity for those people who could be losing their jobs in Tata. So that's another piece of work that we're doing at the moment, is mapping out where the opportunities are across the whole region, so that we have that information available as and when it's needed by the task force, who are obviously working very hard at the moment with that organisation. So that gives you an overview of what we're doing. The Skills and Talent programme is always looking for pilot projects that we can help to support the delivery of new courses, new ideas. We've developed a number of new frameworks now. We're looking at new apprenticeships. And if I could just mention before I close, there's one that we've actually delivered, which is the user experience. Now, this is something that they've been looking at for a long time within our digital sector, and they wanted to have a course. It's not delivered anywhere in the UK. We had the course written, it's been approved through Agored, and it's now being delivered as a level 2, level 3 and level 4 apprenticeships through Gower College, and they've just started the degree apprenticeship through Trinity St David. So that's a feather in the cap of South West Wales, because nobody's ever delivered it in the UK before. But of course it'll now be available now to all colleges and universities. Now it's on the system. So that's the overview I have got for you this morning, Chair, but if I'm happy to respond to any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jane. Any other officers making an input to that? Doesn't look like it. Okay, so we're over to members. Any questions, comments from members, please? Liz, you're up first.
Get my camera working. Hi, Jane. Long time no see. I was just going to ask. I know it's out of region, but of course, from the parks point of view, the peatland side is very important to us, and we work very closely with Black Mountains College over in Talbot. So I just want, I know I don't know how this works in terms of over border, but certainly cross park we would work with them. So very interested, and I think Gareth Joe's on the call at the moment, but it certainly seems an opportunity, perhaps, that from our point of view, to work with the park on that.
Yes, thank you.
Gareth's got anything else to say? My camera hasn't come on, sorry. There I am.
Thanks, Liz. Jane, do you want to come back on that?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, sorry, I wasn't aware that the Black Mountains College was offering peatland, because I've been working with Lantra. They hadn't mentioned that, but yes, we would link up with anybody, because as you're aware, our RSP used to cover Mid Wales as well. So I have had discussions with Black Mountain College previously on other courses.
Yeah, I'm not sure they offer it specifically, but just being creative, there may well be some opportunity there, to think about that. So as I say, I think Gareth's on the call. I don't know whether he's got anything more to say about that from an officer point of view, but.
No, I agree with what you say, Liz. I think if we can look at some of the cross-border opportunities as well to add value, then that would be constructive. Thanks.
Right, I'll catch up with you anytime, Jane, about that, yeah?
Thank you.
Thanks all. Steve, next, please.
Thank you, Paul. Just to say that in Pembrokeshire, with the prospect of large flow applications coming forward, I think seamanship is something of a skill we need to seriously provide. I've been on to Pembrokeshire College and they have actually started something going on, but I think this is absolutely critical if flow is going to succeed and be able to carry on moving people to maintain and look after machinery in some fairly nasty conditions, I suspect.
Thanks, Steve. Jane?
Yes, apologies, Councillor Alderman. I should have mentioned that that is actually one of the projects that we are funding through the Skills and Talent programme. It's a marine project working with Walsall College in Southampton. So we're working with Pembroke College and they've linked up with that college. So yes, it is in hand. Very sorry, I should have mentioned it.
Thank you, Jane. Members, anything else? Andrea?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Jane. It's just really heartening to hear all the great work that's going on. I'm particularly passionate about construction trades and green skills agenda in the construction industry, and it's just fantastic to hear that you're getting into primary schools and reaching children at that younger age to inspire them. Appreciate that we need to upskill our existing workforce, but we're also, acutely aware that we've got an ageing workforce and that we will see skills gaps. So it's just really great to see it, and more of it, please. So fantastic work, and really support what you're trying to achieve. Thank you.
Very much.
Thanks, Andrea. Okay, no other hands raised from members. So I think it's thank you very much, Jane, for joining us. I think, again, the report's for noting. So we'll duly note that, and we'll move on to item 7, which is the investment prospectus. That's pages 33 to 38 in your packs. And again, I'll hand over to officers to give an overview and get us going, please. Thank you. Silence. Okay. Does no one know who the officer is? Are they not with us? Chloe, help me out.
Victoria, are you taking this one?
I thought Rachel was starting.
I'll pick it up, Chloe.
Okay, thank you, Rachel.
It's fine either way.
Okay.
I am here, Paul. Sorry, I was just
Thank you.
typing something else and I got caught out. So thank you very much for letting us bring this report to you today. I suppose this comes from a recognition of some really good work that's been done through the local energy area plans or towards those plans, and the development of a regional strategy, but that has, I suppose, a very local focus and has actually highlighted a number of gaps in terms of how we take things forward. I'm sure, well, you all appreciate, and just listening to Jane then in terms of what she was presented in terms of the need for skills growth and the response of some of our skills providers to some of that, a recognition that there's an awful lot of activity in the energy sphere at the moment. And I, along with other officers across the region, have had a number of meetings recently, predominantly on the back of Freeport activity, Celtic Freeport activity, with the likes of Welsh office in Dubai and Qatar. And yes, there is such a thing, which surprised me. 3 officers in total, but also organisations like DBT and some of our investment colleagues in Welsh Government here in Wales, who've said, you need to tell us what you're selling. We need to understand what the landscape looks like. We need to understand what opportunities are there and the state of some of the sites that you'd be looking to bring forward through our strategic sites programmes and our Freeport programmes and a part of that sort of regional energy piece. When I looked at the Welsh Government website and how they currently advertise the region, it's not terribly positive. I think there's a marker down for Pembroke Dock infrastructure and the marina there. I think there's something in Port Talbot, and I think there's one site identified in Swansea. So I didn't feel we were represented as perhaps we should be, particularly given how much is going on. So Victoria and I have been doing some work in the background with Ben Burgraff at Net Zero Industry Wales, who also appreciates some of the issue. And I suppose what we're trying to do here is just recognise that, I think if we're going to deal with this strategic opportunity around energy as a region in a proactive manner, but B, in order that we can actually go to the outside world and talk about what we're offering, we need to put some resource into it. And I suppose all of us offer this as a part-time role as part of much bigger roles as officers. So this is about identifying, first of all, doing some very short and sharp pieces of work that help us to develop an investment pack. And that's the Sprint 1 project, which Victoria will take us through in some detail. And then to look at supporting some other pieces across the region and bringing some resource in to enable us to, I suppose, surge forward in terms of our support for the opportunity. So in identifying that there are some reserves within the CJC, we're putting a pitch forward for some cash to support a series of projects, and that's detailed in the report in terms of a short programme. Perhaps if Victoria took us through the Sprint 1 project, and we could perhaps chuck that up on the screen. I can do that at this end, Victoria, if you haven't got it handy. That will explain what we're trying to do with this initial piece of work, and then some follow-up pieces. Thanks.
You have it on your screens now?
Yep.
Yeah, brilliant. So as Rachel said, this is really just a piece of work that we've been doing with Net Zero Industry Wales, and the reason that we're doing the work with them is, one, because obviously they've got the contacts into industry and also into potential investment partners, but also they're very keen on doing this on a Wales basis. And so what they're looking for is kind of areas and regions across Wales that are keen to kind of kick something off and start something soon that they might then be able to roll out across all of Wales. All of the other regions across Wales are looking at something very similar to this. So North Wales are looking at an investment prospectus. Cardiff Capital Region are doing the same, and they're looking at sort of pipeline of projects. So as Rachel said, we've sort of chunked this up into kind of three sort of sections. The first one that you've got here is the first sprint, which essentially is taking everything that we've kind of heard about today. So regional energy strategy, flow projects, free ports, local area energy plans, and pulling all of that information together along with what we know the private sector is doing. So the SWIC plans that are out there, sort of pulling all of that together and some of the other projects that are in the pipeline, and kind of seeing what is the scale of the opportunity, what is out there, and what does that look like in the southwest. Also then identifying who the key players are and who the contacts would be for those particular kind of projects, and then kind of, as Rachel said, creating that sort of shopping list of these are the kind of top 3, top 5 projects, and kind of then building around that an investment prospectus and a narrative that describes the scale of the opportunity and gives comfort to potential investors about how sure we are that these are going to be delivered. We've put on there a link to a project pipeline that was similar, so if you want to in your own time have a look at that investment case that was put together, and we're hoping that this would be a sort of fairly short, sharp piece of work. Following this, then we obviously would need to go and socialize this document and be in the right places where we might be able to attract that inward investment, and then we've also asked for a bit of budget to identify perhaps 3 key projects that we think will really unlock or also sort of feasibility for a couple of key projects to really get them into the next stages of delivery. So that's sort of the outline of what this project is hoping to deliver, but happy to take any questions. This slide deck should be in your papers as well for anyone to look at after.
Just to add as well to that, Victoria, if I may, the intention here is to create a dynamic resource. I think we've too often seen paper prospectus, haven't we, that are set at a particular date and offer a particular set of circumstances, and they're out of date before they're printed. So the intention here is that we have something which we can work through, hopefully with our own GIS mapping teams within local government, update. So a site gets planning permission. There's a site has an investor, something's taking place on that. There's a new set of buildings there, whatever it might be, a new turning circle, access is improved, whatever. But that can be kept up to date as opposed to just being something which is produced at a point in time. So I would hope that we end up with a useful and dynamic resource on the back of it, which all local authority partners buy into, in that they actually keep that up to date. Yeah, that was all. So happy to take questions and try and answer them.
Okay, thank you very much, Rachel. Members, any questions from you on the briefing that we've just received? No? Okay, so you will see that unlike the previous items, this isn't just for noting, there is a specific ask. There's a recommendation there on page 33. Any comments on that from anyone? Nicola, please.
Thank you. Just to point out, I'm supportive of us obviously doing this work with Ben, and obviously to match up with the other ambitions within the other regions throughout Wales. But I'm just mindful the fact that the money hasn't been allocated to the CJC because we've been allocated the grant sum of about £20,000 for energy. Now, I know that Christy has been putting together a report, a letter to Julie James on behalf of the CJC to try and secure additional money for the strategic development plan work that we are progressing, or we are required to progress. Currently, it is unfunded. I wonder whether we should do the same, obviously subject to approval from the CJC, that we do the same for the energy piece of work, because without the funding within the CJC, we can't progress with this work, because, as I say, we've got the grant sum of £20,000 per year for the energy portfolio. So I don't know whether that would be a useful suggestion, that we put forward another letter to Welsh Government to try and secure that additional funding so that we can deliver the aspirations, because energy is probably one of the biggest focuses for us as a region, probably more than any of the other regions, and we don't want to miss this opportunity because of lack of funding to deliver that sort of ambition and that prospectus. So it's just a suggestion, because we know that the financial situation is very restricted.
Thanks, Nicola. And I'm personally happy to sort of go along with that suggestion, I guess, and excuse my limited understanding, but I guess what we're doing here is simply placing an ask in front of the Corporate Joint Committee proper. And so perhaps we just include that as our suggestion to them. So here's our ask and the rationale for our ask. And we also think that a letter to Welsh Government sort of seeking some support for that ask might be useful. I don't know what members feel about that. It's a bit of nodding, so I think I'm probably on the right track. So I'm quite happy to move that from the chair, that we do sort of escalate this ask to the Corporate Joint Committee proper for funding, and that we do suggest that perhaps they might be minded to seek some support from Welsh Government in that regard. Obviously, the CJC will be balancing competing funding priorities, so I think we need to recognise that. But I so move from the chair. Is there a seconder among members, please? Aled, thank you very much.
Before
Rachel,
you move, do you want to bring Rachel? Sorry, yeah, go on.
Thanks, Chloe. Rachel, you've put your hand up. Would you like to come in before we go to a vote?
It was just to say that the report does recognise that limited resource, Chair, and the proposal was to look at the reserves. Now, obviously, that's something to put forward as well, potentially. But we suggested the use of reserves because of the importance of this to the region, as Nicola's pointed out. So obviously not a decision for higher up the line, but should the CJC choose to use that, then there is some funding there of, we understand, around 700k. So yeah, it was just a reminder of that, really. Sorry to interrupt.
And I did have a briefing from Will pre this meeting, and that is right. There is 600,000-700,000 sort of money available in the reserve, so it is possible. But obviously, I think our remit is simply to make the ask of what we believe is required and recognise that they've got some difficult decisions around balancing competing priorities. So I think if we just limit ourselves to the ask. Okay, so moved and seconded. Members, can I just ask that you show your support or otherwise for that proposal, please? Thank you very much.
I can confirm that's been approved, Chair.
Great, thank you very much, Chloe. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the formal agenda today. There's an urgent items section in case anyone has any urgent items. I don't think we've been informed of any.
No, there's no urgent items, Chair.
Great. Okay, then I think that's it. Thank you very much, everyone, for your participation today. Nice to see you all. See you soon.